What's up guys, DJ here at Top Deck Cards and Games. Today I'm going to do a deck profile for Odd Eyes Pendulums. This is actually probably my favorite deck in the format other than Lightsworn, but that deck's too cool for school. This deck is just really an Odd Eyes OTK deck. I mean, there's Performapals and Magicians in it, but like at its core it's just an Odd Eyes deck. You win basically all of your games doing 8,000 damage with Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. And that's always a really good feeling and normally just pisses everyone off, so it's kind of the dream. So we have 3 Odd Eyes in the deck. He's great. If you don't know, because most people haven't actually ever summoned this guy, he does double damage when he attacks over monsters. So with Performapal Unicorn Bro, Odd Eyes Performapal Unicorn, you can easily get him up over 4,000 or 5,000 attack depending on the situation. And then using things like Utopia Beyond and Papal Operative, you can easily do over 8,000 damage with 1 Odd Eyes attack. Obviously, you're not actually going to do all 8,000 damage with him a lot of the time, but you have a lot of other tools to push damage through, such as Aether, the evil empowering dragon. Aether is just absolutely great in this deck. It's another monster that you can summon anytime you have the scales to summon an Odd Eyes. It's level 6. It has a good attack stat at 2300, does a lot of damage pretty easily, and it gets to remove threats off your opponent's board, which is just key for pushing through damage or removing various problematic guys. Additionally, it's a 4 scale, so it's not a very good scale, but it still lets you summon Odd Eyes and whatever other level 7s or 6s you want to summon. And it makes Utopia Beyond, which is the easiest way to kill someone with Odd Eyes. 3 Magical Abductor. Abductor is pretty key in any Skyris Pendulum deck, I think. It just gets you an extra monster. Like, free cards are great, especially when you're able to pick what they are, so this lets you tutor up whatever combo piece you're missing to kill your opponent. It's also a low scale and a level 4 spellcaster to make Trapeze Magician, so it just does a lot of things that you really want in this deck. It's not the easiest card to trigger, I guess, all things considered. Like, if you have any way to get Sky Iris, it's always set off. Other than that, there's like goofy lines with like Archfiend Eccentric or MST and Pot of Desire, stuff like that. But generally, it's just, it activates if you have a Sky Iris, and that's about it. 2 copies of Archfiend Eccentric. 7's in OK scale in the deck. I was playing 3 of these for a while, but they're kind of cloggy. Like, you can only use 1 spell effect a turn, and I want to have a little bit of resilience to Spell Fragrance, so I have a Typhoon in place of the 3rd one. And we have our Performapal Engine. 3 Pendulum Sorcerers. Pendulum Sorcerer is a lot worse now than it used to be, obviously. Losing Monkey Board is a pretty big hit to this kind of deck, but it functions just fine without it. It still sets up a complete scale on its own, as well as having a decent number of tutor targets. And I think people really underrate the boost effect. This guy's in your scales and you summon a Performapal, it gets plus 1,000 attack, and that's an extra 1,000 that you can put onto your Odd Eyes. So just forces a lot of damage through. For search targets, we have 2 copies of Radish Horse. Radish Horse is one of the cards that makes us a little more resilient to Spell Fragrance, as well as giving us more ways to OTK with Odd Eyes. Its Pendulum effect lets you make an opponent's monster smaller, and I think buff your own guy by the same amount, or is that the on-field effect? Yeah, that's the on-field effect. On-field, it also pumps one of your guys. So it just adds a lot of damage to the board. Additionally, if your opponent has the same or more number of monsters as you, you can special summon it from your hand. So you can, like, normal summon a Joker, search it, and then special one from your hand to make, like a Castell or a Direwolf, depending on the situation, so that you're able to actually play. We have 2 Unicorns. Obviously, I already talked about this card, said it's very key to the deck, but you don't want to play 3 since it does nothing other than be a scale, and it's highly searchable since we're playing 6 copies of Sky Iris and Pendulum Sorcerer to tutor it up. And then 1 copy of Odd Eyes Light Phoenix. It's a low scale searchable by Sky Iris, puts a lot of damage in play, but overall not a very good card. Then Joker. Joker's great. Stratos is great. Then we have 1 copy of Lizard Draw. I'm not playing Turtle, I'm only playing Lizard, and I think that makes the most sense in this deck. I don't think Lizard is very good when the scale is irrelevant, and in this deck, 6 scale is just bad. Like, you can't summon any of the cards that are actually going to impact the game, and a lot of people I've had this discussion with said, yeah, but you just pop up a Sky Iris the next turn. The thing with that is if you've had your Sky Iris sit and play with a turn, and your Pendulum Scales have survived for a turn, like, it doesn't matter what that Guitar Turtle was, you were going to win the game no matter what. Like, you're so far ahead, you've got full control of the game, it doesn't matter. Lizard Draw is pretty good, being able to search it off of Joker if you don't need, like, to complete your scale, or you don't need a certain card, and just upstart is pretty good. As well as giving you a Performapal you can summon back so you can pump your odd eyes in the future for sure, since you can guarantee this gets into your extra deck by just playing it and cantripping it. So it's a pretty good one of, definitely not an exciting card. Then we have a small Magician package. I put this in the deck when I saw a list from before the ban list that was playing Magicians in 0 Pendulum Call. I did want to play the 1 call anyway since it was legal, and I have that in here, but I went with a really tiny Magician package. Wisdom Eye is just such a strong card, and we needed more 8 scales anyway, so the options were to play like Odd Eyes Mirage Dragons and stuff, or to play the Magician Engine. I think the Magicians add a lot more utility to the deck, Wisdom Eye adds a lot more power to the deck, and rank 7s aren't bad. So we have 2 Dragon Pit Magician, Spell and Trap removal, and a 8 scale, plus another level 7 to make rank 7 plays with. Then we have 1 ofs each of Dragon Pulse, Oath Dragon, and Wisdom Eye. Dragon Pulse, it's just a all the way low scale. This guy is actually included over another copy of Oath Dragon because of, what's this guy's name? Ebon Illusion Magician, so you can get a little more damage out of it that way, able to milk extra damage. Additionally, it's also pretty good to use as an out to Jowgen and to force Spirit Dragon if you need to. And we have 1 Oath Dragon. Oath Dragon being level 6 is pretty relevant. That's the reason to consider it a second copy. Obviously, Utopia Beyond, I already mentioned how strong he is in this deck, but 1 copy is generally enough. The summon effects are pretty good, but with only 5 Magicians, you generally don't get to resolve the Graveyard effect. Wisdom Eye makes sure you get something back from the extra deck with him, though. Then last monster is 1 Magispector Kieran. It's searchable with Abductor. It's too good to not play, but I didn't think Bunbuku was worth the slots in this deck list. Spells, we have 3 Pot of Desire, staple. 3 Terraforming and 3 Sky Iris. I'm not playing any other field spells in this deck because there's no way for me to protect a turn 1 Secret Village, and I don't think Necro Valley is good against enough of the meta at the moment to warrant. In the near future, it might be worth it since it stops your opponent from making ABC out of their graveyard and various things like that. But at the moment, I just decided to go with the full package. I always want to see Sky Iris, but there weren't any other field spells that were worth justifying a slot in my deck. So we just maxed out on 3 of each of those cards, and so be it if we clog on them. Then we have our 1-ofs. We have 1 Odd Eyes Fusion to search with Sky Iris, 1 Pendulum Call to search our Magicians, 1 Upstart Goblin because that's all I'm allowed to play, and then 1 copy of MST. I was playing 2 of these for a little while and ended up, I forget what card in the deck was the second MST. It's actually a pretty versatile card in the deck, being able to set up your Abductor plays by, like, you play a scale, Typhoon your scale, and then play another scale. That's 3 spells. Not ideal, but it makes it so MST is not a dead card whenever you're not using it to clear back row. There's also situations where you set up scales out of necessity, and then you can Typhoon to put back in Unicorn to kill your opponent when you draw it. And obviously the resilience to Spell Fragrance is nice, but not really space for more than 1 copy. You could definitely argue several slots that are space for a second one, like you don't have to play Pendulum Call, you don't have to play 3 copies of Aether, you don't have to play 2 copies of Radish Horse, but I valued those cards all higher than the second MST. Talk about the extra deck a little bit too. It's built to just do damage really. It's not much fancy in here, but 2 Odd Eyes Vortex Dragons. There's 2 Vortex because if you want to summon Absolute, you can do so and summon one of these and then still use Fusion to send like a different different cards to your graveyard and summon the second Vortex. Additionally, you can use the second Vortex in Rebellion to summon the first Vortex and still have Absolute if you want to just summon the Utopia effect. So it is relevant and it can add damage in different situations. I think this is the best split of Odd Eyes to play. I tried 2 Absolute at some point over this Red Eyes Flare Metal that I'm playing now, because then I was able to make like this play, dump these guys to fusion summon this guy, and then still have a second Absolute to summon the second Vortex. But that was overkill. You don't need to do all that. 1 Flare is another card that pushes damage. This extra deck, like I said, is built just to push damage through. Flare, a lot of situations you're able to push through, 6,000-7,000 damage, summon Flare, and your opponent's not really able to play any cards. I already touched on Ebon Illusion Magician, but he is in the deck. He's a generic rank 7 that puts 4,300 damage into play, and that's a lot more than 2 Dragon Pits or even Dragon Pit Odd Eyes on certain fields is. Utopia Beyond is just a staple in Odd Eyes decks if you play level 6 monsters. And we have our Utopia package of Lightning and Utopia. Castell and Direwolf for removal. Direwolf is kind of underwhelming in the deck, but it's come up enough times that I left it in over Calgary Cowboy. That was the other card in consideration. One Dweller, really the only utility card in the extra deck. Dark Rebellion XYZ, blah. It pushes through damage easily. It's 2,500 damage over a beater, so you're able to clear something on your opponent's board if it's too big, and then you can kill them with the other monsters. Trapeze Magician, and Papal Operative, which is probably the most utilized card in this extra deck, being able to switch your opponent's dinky Metal Foes monsters or whatever to attack, and then OTK them with Odd Eyes is big game. Additionally, if anyone ever screws up and leaves a Gofu token in play, they will never make that mistake against you again. It's actually one of the things that's made this deck really good when people don't know what I'm playing. They'll leave various little guys on the field in defense, and I'll just get to OTK them through them by summoning Papal Operative because they don't know. Like, nobody expects this card right now. It makes sense once you see it, but nobody's really, making their game plan around not losing to that card. So it's pretty powerful. So there's the Odd Eyes deck I've been playing. I've actually had a lot of success with it, and I think it's one of the best decks in the format. You see you see a decent number of people playing different Pendulum decks. I think this is stronger than messing around with some of the Magispector stuff. I think that changes with Ties of the Brethren, though. Being able to just Inferno to your opponent out turn one with 4 or 5 guys you can tribute in a full back row that you searched is pretty strong. But right now, I think this deck's actually really well positioned, and it's a ton of fun to play. So let me know if you guys have any suggestions down below. I'd be more than happy to talk about the deck, and thanks for watching.